Hey, hanging in there, Tina.
How you doing?
Probably better than y'all. You probably got hammered with snow, didn't you?
Sure did. Sure did.
Doing all
Uh,
right though?
yeah, we just got plowed out 3 or 4 hours ago, so I can get out now.
Sounds good. Nadia is going to be joining by from her husband's phone.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So it should be, I think the last name's the same, but the first name's
Yep.
Dan.
Yep, I see him. So I'll start promoting folks.
Sound good?
I don't see Franklin TV. Um,
We got three
Talked to
minutes.
Dee. She did say that she notified them. So,
we are recording, so
okay, that's good. So it's recorded.
yep. So yeah, we'll see folks popping in. I'll keep an eye. Ding. Oops.
Hello, everyone.
Hey everybody,
Hello.
Hello.
Hey there.
how's everyone managing the storm?
Just fine.
Yeah, how's Nadia doing with her storm?
I don't know if you
Yeah,
want me
she's
to
still
turn my computer around for sunset, but
no, we don't. Yeah,
Yeah.
Pretty sure the DPW had instructions to dump all the snow in front of your house, Nadia, so we'd make sure that
my plow guy hasn't come yet, so you're all better off than I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only blizzard she's had is in the form of a menu item on a
I was out earlier. The streets are like clear. It's pretty remarkable. It's not even like patches of snow. The library parking lot was a little rough.
way to go, Brutus.
Yeah, Brutus knocked it out of the park. An enthusiastic voice message followed by clean roads.
yeah. That it's like the main roads, and then every you get a little bit further deeper in, they definitely get a little more snowy. But in context to like where we are compared to some of my colleagues in other towns, I feel like we're in pretty good shape as a town. You know what I mean? So totally, they did a good job.
Yeah. I had commented to my wife that you were concerned about the ability of teachers who live out of town to get in, and she, being a teacher herself, was like, "Wow, I'm so happy someone's even considering that." Because in her experience, it's always like, "Our roads are clear. It doesn't matter that you're married. Get it."
Well, staffing's definitely one of the areas of concern. So we're working. That's why I said it, putting that call out now. I sent the, well, actually, you received it. I blind copied you on my message to staff just to kind of communicate so we know. The other thing we can do is look to redeploy staff like at ECDC, different areas to try to help us with coverage. We'll see how that goes.
So we have a few attendees. I don't know if you can see participants. Can you all see participants? So Steve Sherlock is in attendance and Kit Brady. I think is this it for our folks?
Yeah, we've got
4, 5, 6, 7.
yep, we've got our crew and yeah, I see the attendees, so that
Okay,
looks good.
okay.
Um,
It is being recorded, and I'll keep an eye on Franklin TV and promote them if I do see them, but for right now, they're not there.
Wonderful. So I appreciate recording that. So we'll go ahead and kick things off. So the time being 6:01 p.m., I call to order the Franklin School Committee meeting. Meetings are recorded and shown when available on Comcast Channel 9. As of tonight, this meeting will be recorded and provided to Franklin TV as possible. Pledge of Allegiance, we don't have someone there. I don't know if we have a flag, if everyone has a flag available that they can look at, and we can go ahead and say it together. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the
of the
Flag
United
United
States
in
of
the
States,
United
America
States of America,
and to the
to the
republic
republic,
to the
for which
republic,
it stands,
which it
one
stands,
nation,
one
under
nation,
God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and justice
and justice
for all.
for all.
I feel like we're all on half a lag, so thank you for those that participated. And then we'll have a moment of silence as is customary. All right. Thank you.
Paul,
All right.
sorry.
Yes.
Steve Sherlock is raising his hand as a panel attendee. I'm wondering if he's recording the meeting. Do you want me to allow him to talk?
Yes, please. Chair recognizes Steve Sherlock.
Yes, to confirm, I am doing the audio recording and we'll be making that available to accompany the notes that I'll share later. And certainly we'll share the video once it's available that Franklin TV does. So I just want to make that for the record. Thanks.
Greatly appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Routine business. Review of agenda. Agenda look good to everyone? All right. Payment of bills. Callahan.
Looks in order.
Payroll is in order. FHS student reps are probably enjoying a slightly longer winter break if they're in country. Superintendent's report. Lucas, you're on mute.
Good evening, everyone. I have two announcements for the superintendent report this evening. First is about the winter storm and an update. So due to the winter storm that has impacted the region, the Franklin Public Schools was required to close on Monday and Tuesday of this week. All of the after-school activities, as you're aware, as well as the town and school offices were closed on both those days. So these decisions are made following close monitoring of the weather forecasts, storm duration, roadway conditions, and in coordination with our Department of Public Works. So cleanup operations required extensive time, including around-the-clock work since 8 p.m. the night before the major storm. And that was done to ensure that our roads, our parking lots, our sidewalks, and school grounds were as safe and accessible as possible for our students and staff and families. So I wanted to extend my sincere appreciation to the Department of Public Works and our custodial teams for their extensive, tireless snow removal efforts. Their work was instrumental in our ability to restore the conditions of the lot and our walkways into school for our community and within our facilities. And I'm grateful for the Franklin residents and families who remained off the roads during the height of the storm, which allowed the crews to operate efficiently and safely. And that was a direct comment from our school safety chiefs around the fire department, and the police chief also remarked about that at a recent meeting I attended. So as we move forward, Franklin Public Schools will open tomorrow on a 2-hour delay for students and a 1-hour delay for staff, which will be Wednesday, February 25th, 2026. I've sent that communication out on all the channels that we have. The additional time is allowing for safer travel and adequate preparation for school arrival. Emergency busing will be in effect for students who typically either walk or are standing out along bus routes or waiting at bus areas. We will be sure that the bus drivers know, and they've been told to pick up students. Sidewalks across town remain uncleared. That will take several days to fully address, much like a month ago in the last storm. And all before school programs, with the exception of Solutions, will be canceled. So Solutions will follow the 2-hour delay schedule tomorrow. The early childhood program at both Pond and Oak Street will not be in session because typically Wednesday is a regularly scheduled half day. So the 2-hour delay, whenever there's a Wednesday delay, they're canceled. Last comment I'd make is just living in New England requires a balanced and practical approach to winter weather. While we always strive to maximize instruction all time and try to work through, there are moments where the conditions for travel require us to close. At the same time, I want us all to just accept that throughout the winter months that we are going to be navigating cold, icy, snowy conditions and less than ideal circumstances while school is in session. We'll work to balance those expectations and prioritize safety. However, living in New England, I just want to frame for everyone, we had, hopefully a once in a decade or 20-year storm. I'd be happy with saying that if that's true. But ultimately, it took a lot to make this happen. But I just want to prep people and set expectations as we return to school that it may be icy, snowy as you walk out your door to your car, as you navigate streets, even though they were down to pavement on many roads in Franklin today. Just we can expect that that will be the case as we get through the winter season. So just appreciate everyone's continued flexibility and partnership with our staff, students, and families. And as of today, the last day of school is June 25th. That reflects all the closures that have occurred. And tomorrow does count as a school day, as a 2-hour delay. So just want to put that on everyone's radar. And I'm happy to answer questions on that. The last comment I have is just spring conferences. Spring conferences are approaching for families with students in grades K to 8. There are 2 early release days scheduled on March 10th and 11th. So please be on the lookout for communications from your building administrators or teachers regarding that. I'm happy to answer any questions on my report.
That's good. Thank you very much, Lucas. If anyone from the school committee has a question, please just raise your hand so it pings and I'm easily able to identify you. Dave Callahan.
Hey, all right, thank you. Let's see if I can lower that hand. Lucas, just appreciate the update, and really just also I loved listening to Brutus's voicemail. I think that everybody in Franklin kind of got. I know we were talking before just about all the great work DPW is doing. I don't know if I missed it before, but hearing it this storm and last, he also kind of included an update about the Franklin Public Schools. And it's fantastic. And it was great to see that, here's all these different departments all working together for the betterment of Franklin. So really just wanted to kind of, thank you for the work that you're kind of doing, working with all those other departments and for all those other department heads, such as Brutus and all the great work that they're doing to kind of keep Franklin running. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. And Brutus did allow me to do a ride along during the storm yesterday, which I thought was really eye-opening to get just a pulse on what's happening and the progress they were making. And it was much appreciated, and it gave me a better sense. And then to do my own drive today and to see what they were able to accomplish in a 24-hour period was pretty remarkable. So thank you for saying that.
Fantastic. Thanks.
Thanks, Dave. Al Charles.
Yep. Thank you. So one thing I just noticed is that 1 hour teacher delay, staff delay. How is that different than normal, just so folks can understand the differences?
Typically, when we have a 2-hour delay, staff will arrive. Some of them arrive at their normally scheduled time. Some arrive within that 2-hour window. We were trying to be explicit in this storm because of the amount of snow on snowbanks and whatnot and parking lots. One thought was if we said 1 hour, we would just be providing a bit more clarity on trying to have as many staff in within that, time period of when we normally would open to the 1 hour delay. And then the goal there is really just around creating a safer condition as we return after a full week of vacation and have 2 days where we haven't actually come back to school yet. We're going to work through the growing pains, but ultimately if they are able to drive in the lot, park their car and walk into the building before we even have a bus or a car drop off arrive, we were trying to cut down on the congestion when what we know will be streets that have snowbanks that are narrower perhaps, and just trying to cut down on the volume happening all at once and try to limit the amount of frustration people may feel in different spots. So that was really the idea, was to just be strategic around staggering. And that was an outcome of our meeting with the principals earlier this afternoon, just about their specific sites and how, if they could get staff in. So staff typically do arrive. Obviously, they don't arrive necessarily when the kids are walking in. They're always there ahead of time. But we just thought create as much of a window as possible to kind of get them in and situated.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Stephen, you're still on mute.
Thank you. Thanks for the update, Lucas. Now, one thing, the children are very, very happy with the extended the vacation break that they have. So jokes apart, that is also having an impact on the last day, right? So is there anything that we do, because we don't know how many storms we are going to hit in next few weeks? Yeah. So is there a way we can control the last day? Because I know some of us would have already planned for some vacation, some of them already in place, right? So I'm just trying to see, is there anything that we can do to keep extending the last work school day adding the last school day because of the snow day that we have. So is there anything that we can alter around? Maybe some of the half days can be a 1 day, or maybe some of the PDs can be removed, just to avoid keep extending this last day, right? So is there something that admin team can look into it?
Yep, that's a very good question. I'm sure it's a question that many people have on their mind. So the remainder of the year, we don't have any full days that we could create to become a day to earn back. The options are one option is put my head in the sand like one of those ostriches and just hope we don't have another cancellation, but that's not reality. The idea being the 25th being the last day. If we do delays, they count as a school day. If we cancel, obviously we would have to add on. The only other option that we would have, if it really became problematic where we were really pushing ourselves out, is to look at, April vacation. That could be an area. I'm not suggesting that on this call. I'm just answering the question truthfully. There's only so many ways in order to count days before the end of the school year. So that's one. But ultimately, the forecast, I know they're anticipating additional storms that will continue. We can't go into July. That's one thing. I also know families have booked trips, and I respect that and understand, and we're hitting that point of the year. Because of our holiday schedule, I know some districts, their last day is the 18th right now. Ours was the 18th to begin with because of our holiday observances. So I'm not saying that's a bad thing or a good thing, but that's just the math of how it's worked. So we have to continue to monitor it. And I think we'll have to look at, a half day counts as a day no matter what. So we don't gain anything by turning those into full days or, creating more half days. But that's just that would be my response in this moment, just to kind of give you a sense of what we can do.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Stephen. So seeing no other questions, from my end, the main thing I just want to confirm that I heard from a couple of parents is the last day of school is still a half day, as it has been traditionally. The other days are full days. They're not half days.
Correct.
Okay. So straight up until the 25th, it'll be full days. Last day of school, as traditionally done, is a half day.
Yeah. And the reason we did half days last year, just for folks that maybe moved to Franklin or had kindergartners, is because we had the reorganization and we needed to provide time for all of our staff to pack up their boxes, to pack up kitchen equipment, supplies, materials, and get those all moved. So every half day last year, I think we had 4 total, worked for that effort in order to have that ready for the movers when they came. Traditionally, we've always had 1 half day at the end of the year, and that allows our kitchen staff to kind of end on the day before, get all their kitchens wrapped up, and then it's a half day, obviously, the last day. Thank you for asking.
Appreciate you confirming that. Outside of that, nothing really much to add. Appreciate all the efforts from everybody trying to get things ready. And I know it's a big effort. And echoing what had been said earlier, recognizing the challenge to the staff and really kind of giving that extra time to get in and making sure that everyone is safe in their travels. I really appreciate that, knowing, we had it worse than some, but we're not Fall River. We didn't get 40 inches of snow, so there's definitely some down there that got a lot more. So appreciate that approach to how we've been handling things.
Thank you.
All right. So proceeding down with the agenda onto guest presentations, we have none for today. Discussion action items, we have 2. Lucas, if you want to go ahead and tee up the first one, then we'll get the motion going.
Sure. So I'll make that recommendation, but just for context for folks, this is the recommendation to vote on the final budget. As you know, we presented the superintendent's recommended budget to you in late January. We then spent the February meetings, the first meeting, presenting and doing the line-by-line analysis where you were able to ask your detailed questions. And then for the purposes of procedure, the vote always takes place later to provide time for all of you to kind of think about the information and hopefully approve a budget that we can submit to the town administrator as part of the town budget, which is under development as we speak. So that's kind of the context of where we're at in the cycle. And now I'll read the recommendation. I always say this out loud. I'm going to read it so that you can open and talk about it amongst the team as part of that procedure. So I'll start by reading now. I recommend approval of the FY27 school budget in the amount of $72,341,254 as discussed.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Duly moved and seconded. Discussion. As before, please raise your hands if you have any questions or comments you want to add. Jana, let's go ahead and start with you because I feel like this is going to be something important for all of us.
Thank you, Paul. Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to clarify a line item that was discussed during the budget hearing on February 10th. The line item was the 3,200 contracted services Medicaid reimbursement. Just wanted to provide some clarification on that line item. That line reflects expenses that are eligible for Medicaid reimbursement. It does not mean that the town of Franklin will be fully reimbursed the amount of that line. So you have about $156,000 on that line. It doesn't mean that you're going to be reimbursed to 100%. The actual reimbursement is dependent upon approved claims and the applicable reimbursement rates. Paula Morano can chime in if needed, if you have any questions. That's it for me.
Thank you, Jana. Ruth Ann?
I just, having said that about the reimbursement, because I know that this was a discussion with a couple of the town councilors, the process for that, and Paula can probably speak to this, it's intricate, the administrative work to make sure that this money comes back to the town from the schools, essentially. You know, we do our part. I just wanted to ask a little bit about what that admin process is like.
Sure. So these are services that are medical services that can reimburse, quote unquote, medical services at school. So for example, they'd be services that our speech language pathologists provide, our occupational therapists, our physical therapists, and we're starting to discuss billing for our nurses as well. And they have to be specific services. We have to have an quote unquote order from the professionals. So that our SLPs, OTs, PTs would have to write an order that Johnny will receive speech and language services 2 times 30 minutes per week. And these are the goals that they have to come up with a treatment plan and then do periodic progress monitoring that we would have to submit to Medicaid for billing. We do contract with the Accept Collaborative, who does our billing for us. So they do the major piece of the billing. So our staff will do the paperwork piece, and then Accept Collaborative will coordinate and do the billing to Medicaid. Before we can bill for services, we do need consent from parents. So there's a quote unquote heavy lift of that. So we need to send out consent forms to all our parents of eligible students who have Mass Health. And once we have those consents received in our office, then our staff members will then bill for those services. It's a heavy, it takes our staff, who's already limited with time, who already have, quite a few kids on their caseloads and doing testing and have quite a workload to bill for these services, because they have to develop treatment plans, they have to, put the billing in and whatnot. So that's kind of the process in a nutshell. Also, we participate in what we call random moments of time studies. So many of our SLPs, our OTs, our nurses, and our PTs also will get random moments in time. So they'll get an email from Mass Health saying what were you doing at 12:45 p.m. on September 10th, and then the staff member has to go into the system and answer. I think there's I haven't done it in a while personally. I think it's like 3 or 4 questions that they have to say. I was seeing a student. This is what I was doing with the student during this time period, or I was in a meeting. This is the student that I had in the meeting and whatnot. So there's all those different pieces.
Wow, thank you for that. I knew it was a complicated process, and that's what I had been talking to town council about a little bit when sort of the speaking point of getting cash back at the end of the budget season. And I was like, it takes a lot for us to make sure that this money gets reimbursed. So I appreciate that. I'll have to go back and watch that and send it over and be like, just giving you guys extra kudos.
Right.
And it's almost like, yeah.
it is, and our staff's not completely comfortable with doing it at times because they feel it has to be a medical service, and we try. It's such a blurred line for school-based staff to provide medical services. We say that's not what happens, but so it takes some time and some training for sure.
Yeah. And it's not every student. I know it's
and it's not every
it's really
student. No.
needs, so, yeah.
Yes, correct.
The only other thing I just wanted to, and I'll let you off, Paula, but
Okay.
the only other thing, Paul, that I wanted to talk about, I had written just a quick little statement because I think it's important given the last, we really appreciate that at the last town council meeting, there were some people who's, they were looking over our capital requests, and some people wanted to kind of just acknowledge the work that's been done and provide, some additional tools for the district. So I wanted to take a moment to express my support for our district and for Lucas, our superintendent, because I think that the comments made at the recent town council meeting, and I don't want to speak to everyone because there's been a lot of people who have been showing up, building bridges. I had breakfast with Steve Malloy the other day, and speaking to people regularly. They're attending our meetings, but Ted Cormier-Ledger had mentioned something, and I wanted to just point out that particularly regarding our administrators and the work of this committee, and I was really disappointed. There were words used like discussed, suggesting our decisions are made to the detriment of other town services or other services for the kids. I thought it was divisive and irresponsible. I think those statements don't reflect the reality of thoughtful, collaborative, and student-centered work that happens every day in this district. The superintendent shared factual information in a professional and transparent manner, as is his responsibility. So to suggest otherwise, especially from somebody who should know better, been in the council for years, we've been through this overhead together, it undermines productive dialogue and does a disservice to the broader community. Since that meeting, I've received numerous phone calls and messages from residents thanking the superintendent for pushing back respectfully, standing up for the district, and working to bring this town together rather than dividing it. That response speaks volumes about the trust that the community has in his leadership. So we are all here because we care about Franklin. Disagreement is healthy, but it's got to be grounded in respect and a shared commitment to collaboration. I remain confident in our district and our superintendent and our administrative team and the work of this committee. So I look forward to continuing to work constructively with our town partners for the benefit of our students and our community. So I just thought that had to be said. So thanks, Paul. I'm all good.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Ruth Ann. Dave?
Yeah, thank you very much. Just two things. One, just to kind of confirm, so with the 72, like the number that we have right here, that's a 2.5% increase from last year, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, wonderful. And so again, and just to kind of reiterate for the broader community, we kind of look at like that 2.5%. That's pretty much kind of where we're capped at. The overall, the town of Franklin, really all of Massachusetts, in terms of how much that revenue might be able to kind of increase. So by keeping the expenses at 2.5% of an increase, it just provides that much stability, year over year over year as we kind of move forward. So this is just what we're able to do with this allocation, because a lot of other communities do invest more than 2.5% year over year. I know, we've talked about it here. I've mentioned it numerous times when I was first kind of coming onto the school committee, so many years ago. It was Tim Keenan that was kind of talking about the fact of how 75% of other districts invest more on a per pupil basis than the town of Franklin. And we saw for a little bit that number started to kind of tick up, maybe just towards like the middle, but now we've kind of started to slip down further again. So it would have been wonderful if we were be able to kind of have that money financially for the entire town of Franklin. That's why, it's just so important when we had those overrides and we had those movements before, to be able to have this opportunity just to invest in not just the educational piece, but every other, you want the roads to kind of be even cleaner, the DPW, or for all these other departments, the money was there. But I really appreciate what we have here for that sustainability, given the financial realities where we are and all that you're able to provide as you squeeze every single dollar out. So thank you very much for that. And also, again, incredible kudos to you and your entire team. for getting this done on what is this February. I've lost track of time with all the vacations and snow days, but that we're now approving this budget still in the month of February. This is, multiple months ahead of time of what Franklin had usually done. It was a major lift last year while also doing all the reorganization. But this updated timeline just sets the entire community up for a lot of great opportunities. It gives the FinCom and the town council their plenty of opportunity to kind of examine our budget before they kind of have it, they're looking at it in May. So thank you all so much for the work that you've done last year and continued this year to be able to bump up that timeline. It's amazing and it's incredibly impactful. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
All right. And then from my end, I think the efforts here have been just immense, and hopefully now that we're really in this rhythm of things, we will be able to benefit from that on kind of our regular cadence, and also have the town, along for the ride each time. Understanding that all this information is up on our website, it's going to be part of the budget discussions that are ongoing with town council, and really encourage anyone who has questions about, things that we've discussed here or line items that, we may have discussed, but it was, someone wanted us to go a little bit deeper on it. Feel free to reach out. I know there's been a lot of back and forth, and we've had some really great engagement from some members of the town council, specifically calling out, Councilor Morangello, who I believe is also here tonight, Councilor Callaway Tripp. We, have both been very, very engaged, asking questions, and really, I think, fantastic questions, exactly the kind of things that really help build that bridge, and I think are very, very beneficial to everyone to make sure that we have those accurate points of information. So I really want to call them out and say thank you. We have also seen engagement and a presence in really, making sure that they're involved, from, Councilor Grella. I know that he was here during the budget hearing, and I did see that, Councilor Malloy was very engaged in trying to, continue to support the schools in additional ways, along with Councilor Ojuku. So I really appreciate the approach that some of the councilors have taken to really work with us, and really encourage and look forward to working with all the town councilors to answer as many of the questions that they have as possible, and really continue to build these bridges for the betterment of the town and betterment of the schools. But did want to make sure that people knew, specifically who's really kind of pulling up their sleeves and working closely with us, and make sure that people recognize that it's not just sitting through their meetings and sending a couple of emails, but multiple town councilors have been sitting through our meetings as well, which also tend to go long. Their meetings go rather long, and even though they tried to stop early the other night, plowed right through, for a few more hours total. It means a lot. I know it means a lot to us, and it means a lot to the community to have those folks that are engaging with us. So wanted to call them out and say thank you. All right. So, seeing no further discussions from anyone, vote will come into motion. We'll do roll call vote tonight because we're all virtual. So, all those in favor signify by saying aye. We'll go, let me just go through the list. So, Al Charles, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Aye.
No worries. Thank you. Reese Hansen.
Aye.
Stephen Krunikaran.
Aye.
Nadia Mulsuf.
Aye.
Ruth Ann O'Sullivan.
Aye.
Dave Callahan.
Aye.
And myself. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you. And thank you for all your support. And, the moving up of the budget timeline, I want to just credit our school committee, particularly the ones who've returned for this round. I think without your direction and support for that to happen, I don't know that we would have taken that on last year with everything going on, but I think we've seen the benefit to doing that. I think this is the partnership and the oversight with the budget. And I think the role in which you play, which is critical to to all of our work. It's not done by one group or one person. I think it's a collective effort that we all contribute to. So thank you for your support, for your understanding, and then for your direction at times where it's been needed most. So thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. So moving on to something of great interest, discussion action item B.
Yes. Okay. So I will tee this up. I then am going to let Dr. Rogers share a little bit of information for you all in the community. I know you have your packet and you have information, and then I will read the recommendations so that you can open it up again and have discussion. Does that make sense as a sequence?
It does. Thank you.
Okay. So before I kick it over to Dr. Rogers, I just wanted to credit her, her team, and the work that's been done. When I say her team, I think this has been mostly her. But ultimately, the survey information that you have received with the input and the data that she had provided, she had collected, designed her forms and feedback opportunities for a variety of stakeholders. And this was able to help us provide some informed decisions and options available to you. And ultimately, we'll recommend this. The final decision for school calendar lies with the school committee. But ultimately, we've teed up as much information as possible to hope that we can make an informed decision. I know that many stakeholders, parents, you all, teachers are chomping at the bit for some clarity on what next year will look like. I think we needed to stage this out just based on our not only our agenda items for school committee, but also wanting to make sure that we provided enough time to gather input. So I'm going to kick this over to Tina, who put this together, and just want to thank you again, Tina, for your work on this.
Sure thing. It's a pleasure. Chair Griffith, would you like me to share screens so that the calendar's there, or do you all have that? It's up to
I
you.
think just for the fact that we have this recorded, it'd be helpful if we're able to share it, just so that everyone then sees it in one place.
Sure. Okay.
Thank
let me
you.
just set this. All right. Can you all see that screen?
We can, yes.
I can try to make it larger if we need, and as we talk through. Is that helpful?
That is, thank you.
Okay, so first I want to just extend my deep appreciation for everyone who participated in the survey. So as you are aware, the community received a survey and the educators received that same survey. I'm happy to share, I know you have this in your packet, but we had 1,495 stakeholders respond to that survey. Of that number, there were 1,183 community members and 312 educators, and that is just phenomenal. And I think that speaks to the fact that folks want to engage in a conversation about the calendar and give their input, which I think is so incredibly helpful, and we appreciate it. And we were very specific in the questions we asked because we want the feedback to matter and impact the calendar itself. So just to recall the survey, there were 3 questions. Their first question asked folks as to whether that we should have school on the Friday before Labor Day, being September 4th. The second was the placement of the fall conference dates. And the third being the half-day options, whether we should have consistent days of the week, mostly consistent, or flexible or variable. So I'll kind of work through the calendar itself and share those results while I do so. So you can see the calendar itself is laid out. The dark blue are the federal and bank holidays that all staff administrators would have off. So those are consistent year to year. Then first day for staff here would be August 31st, followed by the September 1st full PD day. And then you can see first day for students September in grades 1 through 12. First day for is September 2nd, followed by kindergarten the next day. And then the following week would be pre-K school start. So first, the survey question related to the Labor Day. We had 51.2% of the community did prefer a full day of school on that September 4th. And 48.8% did not want school on that day. And so statistically, that 2.4% margin is a very, very small statistical difference. So really, when we think about this, there was a pretty balanced approach and a narrow margin there between the community's preference. Whereas teachers, 57.1% of teachers preferred no school on that Friday, with 42.9% preferring school. So a bit more of that margin of educators, 14.2% preference for having no school on that Friday. So that's why you see that on the calendar before you. And then I'll just keep moving through as we look at November. That was the second question, and I'll come back through to talk about these half days. The survey asked folks if they would prefer to have fall conferences the Thursday, November 19th, Friday, November 20th, or Monday, November 23rd, and Tuesday, November 24th. So both the community and educators overwhelmingly preferred Thursday, Friday. So that's November 19th and 20th, with 62.2% of the community selecting that as their preference and 63.1% of educators. So that's why you'll see the placement of fall conferences there. And then lastly, as we move into the third question about the calendar, which was around half days, I'd like to, before I talk about the preference there, we have heard feedback around the number of half days and the impact on families, the impact on instructional time for students. I would also say that we've appreciated the school committee support over the past 5 years, because we've been able to build out our tier 1 and tier 2 curriculum for students. And we're not able to do that without having half professional development days. So we've worked really hard, though we've had a number of half professional days each year. Those have been very strategically decided because we've needed them to support those curriculum implementation. And now we're at a point where you've seen those presentations. We have very robust curriculum resources that are implemented across pre-K through 12. And so because of that, and knowing that the community is preferring fewer half days, we're able to reduce our half days by 30%. So rather than having 10 half days for professional learning, we now have 7. And I just say that because there may be times where we may need a few more half days because of different, implementations and curriculum or different initiatives. But for now, that aligns with the community's kind of desire to reduce that. So the survey results, the community was asked consistency of days. So 65.2% of the community prefer to have a consistent half day. So we gave the example of, say, Fridays. 46.9% of educators had a preference of consistent days each week, both of which was the most highly selected option. I will say, though, that if you total the educators who asked for mostly consistent or flexible, which were those other 2 choices, that those 2 together do add up to a higher percentage than educators who just chose that consistent day each week. So there's some trade-offs here. You can see the calendar in front of you has 7 half days, which are noted in pink throughout the calendar. There are trade-offs with selecting these as half days, some of which are, I would point to staff at the end of the week. On a Friday, the afternoon of a Friday, engaging in some thoughtful PD and conversations. You can imagine at times that might not be, everyone's best, most productive time of week or day. So that is a trade-off. In addition, I know that with a 5-day schedule at the elementary school, and students accessing their art, their PE, their IT, those unified arts, there's an impact to students on that day accessing fewer of those IT, those PE, and those types of courses. And again, there's trade-offs, there's impacts, but a few things that I would just note related to that is this calendar before you has 5 federal or holidays on Mondays. So students who have a unified arts on a Monday will also be missing 5 times throughout the year that unified arts. Given there are 7 half days, the principals do use a rotating schedule so that students who have say a PE class the afternoon of a Friday wouldn't miss all 7 of those, but would miss 3 or 4 of those sessions. So there's a balance to that, but I know that is a concern around those half days being on a consistent day. So I would say there's no more of an impact for half days being on a consistent Friday for students accessing those classes as there is comparable as there is with students who have a Monday class because it's a federal holiday. So there's kind of a balance there. So you'll see those strategically placed throughout the year. There's definite purpose behind each of those and why they're placed in those months and on those days. There was one item missing from your initial calendar, which will be on the published calendar, which is FHS graduation. You can see I've added here on the screen share to June 4th. The 180th day, you can see it is June 22nd, leaving us, since we're in the conversations about blizzards and snowstorms, with 6 additional school days after that 180th day, should we hopefully not need them, but those are there. I think I covered all the survey data, so I think at this point I'll mute myself.
Awesome. Thank you, Tina. And I just want to comment before we get into the discussion. With regard to that option 1, referencing the significance of those values, I also calculated that just to make sure, really how much of a difference was it. For the community preference, I know when you have 1,100 people responding, there's going to be a significant number on both sides when we have a number this close. But the difference from a statistical value, basically, and for those watching, what you're trying to do with like a p-value is you're trying to say something is not true. So saying that it's a 50-50 shot or that these are the same values, not being true is the goal. And in order for that to be found, you need basically 95% confidence in doing so. So when you run those statistics on the number of people that responded for the community, for question 1, what we get to is a roughly 39%, or sorry, yeah, a 39% chance that we could actually reject that null. So that's really pretty low. So that's one of the reasons why we didn't say that was statistically significant. On the other side, looking at the teachers, because there were fewer teachers that responded and there was a much more significant difference in them, the probability that those two are actually different is about 99%. So it really is a pretty significant shift, basically 40% versus 99%, or sorry, 60% of people supporting versus the other. So just want to make sure that people understand this is not just us saying a few more people responded one way versus the other. The p-values of 0.4 versus 0.01 for this community versus the staff is really something that's driving, I think, for your conclusion, Tina. So if anyone else is wondering what those numbers are, it's going to be 0.41 for the p-value and 0.019 for the community and the staff. So, all right, with that being said, anyone who has any questions, happy to open things up.
Should I make the motion and allow you to open it up?
Yes, that would be fantastic.
Okay.
So Lucas, if you want to go ahead and present the topic.
I recommend adoption of the 2026-27 school calendar as discussed.
Do I have a motion?
So
moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. So we have duly moved and seconded. Open things up for discussion. Stephen?
Yeah, I was just trying to unmute myself. Thank you. One question is I'm sorry, if I misunderstood this earlier. So when was this survey sent, and how did we choose this 1,183 community members? Do we know whether they all have school-going children, or how did we arrive at this community members? Sorry, I don't have a background. That's trying to understand the basics on how this survey was initiated.
Sure. So I'll have to look to get the exact date to you, but I can say it was the survey was shared through our typical channels. So whether that was Thrillshare or Aspen, I have to go back to confirm. So it was families of school-aged children. 75% of the folks who responded had students K to 5, and 31 to 34% had students at the secondary level.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Nadia?
I am curious about, first of all, the first survey question. First of all, I want to say thank you, Tina, for putting this together. I had so many people come up to me and say, wow, we get a say in this. So I think this was a fantastic idea to have the community and teachers weigh in. So I just want to say thank you for that. For the first question, did we do we have any knowledge on what swayed the faculty members that did weigh in one way or the other for that change in percentage there? Do we have any thoughts on what the driver is to have that Labor Day, that Friday before Labor Day off versus on?
Yeah, I beyond a few anecdotal conversations, which I don't know represent the whole, the survey was anonymous, and it was anonymous because we hear quite a bit around anonymity is important in surveying, giving honest feedback. So I unfortunately don't know the driver there for the educators who shared that.
Historically, I think Friday has been off.
It has.
And that might be a bit, I'm kind of just anecdotally saying just people's experience and what they've become accustomed might be one piece, but it's a good question.
Yeah, I'm just curious as if it's a product of, the kids are settled in, let's give them a day off, let's come back on Monday. Whether or not, I mean, this year, obviously we are impacted. We're going till the 25th. So, one day might definitely make a difference. But if it wasn't this year, I think I would say, having that one extra day at the end of June, I'd be a little bit indifferent about, unless there was, and I'd love to hear that teacher argument to see what's swaying that percentage in one direction versus the other. My bigger concern is the disparity in the third question, which is having those half days fall on many Fridays. I think you made a good point in that there are several Monday holidays. I still don't think it adds up to the same amount as those half-day Fridays. I do feel like there's a bit of an inequity to those special teachers who are preparing and trying to, have those children access the same amount of curriculum days as the other specials. So that is a concern of mine. I think it was an issue a few years ago because of the Monday holidays. And we made some adjustments with the half days and sort of spread them around the calendar, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't know if that's something that we could consider. I know there is, to your point, for some, it's advantageous to have that half day always fall on a Friday, especially in a parent's perspective, but I'm not so sure in the teacher's perspective. So I'm a little bit mixed there. That's all for now.
Thank you, Nadia. Reese? Reese, you're on mute. Reese, you're still on mute.
Sorry, I was muted in two places. Just be an extra mute. Anyhow, my questions are very similar to Nadia's. I wanted to ask this school year, what how much window did we have before the snow days? Was it similar that we had about 6 leeway, or we must have had about that? Does anybody know? I guess I need to direct my question to someone. Lucas or Tina?
Yeah, I'm looking right now.
Okay, thank you.
I got it up.
Okay. What
It looks like June 18th.
June 18th. Okay. So part of me wonders if it's just the timing, because we've had some light winters in the years past, and now we're clearly having a more significant heavy winter. So I share the concern about wanting to be mindful of trying to build in those days. I really don't want to see us get to a place where we have to cut into the planned breaks for the teachers or for the families. The other thing I wanted to ask is that along the lines of the specials, you had mentioned that principals have in the past kind of swapped schedules on the day. Is that something that we could expect to be a standard practice to help increase the equity of individual students' access to the the specialist curriculum, and also I think just to help the specialists have a reliable curriculum. If you're planning a curriculum and there's going to be even a three class gap, that's can be like a whole unit of lessons between one class and another. And the risk of desynchronizing the classes, I feel like is somewhat present as well. So I guess my question is like, is that something we can expect to be standard practice, or is that kind of down to the principal? And is it something that could be addressed with foresight if we went with half days on a Friday? Because I see a lot of benefits to keeping the half days on Friday, but there's also a really big risk factor there in terms of equity.
It's a great question. And I would say absolutely, unequivocally, we are currently, principals at the elementary school currently have I'll just call it for a rotating schedule, like an AB schedule, so that this year, if there are, I'm trying to look, if there are 5 half days that are on Wednesdays this year, students would miss 2 or 3 of those classes, not all 5. So they're rotating those schedules. So they would continue that into next school year to minimize the disruption, to your point of not missing 7 classes across, but rather missing 3 or 4, which again, certainly less than ideal. But yes, minimizes the impact.
Did you have something to add, Lucas?
No, I'm sorry. Over my screen, my family was in front of me, so I was saying no, like don't talk to me. It was nothing to do with the conversation. I'm just going to be completely transparent.
Sorry for calling it out, but I
Sorry.
didn't want to miss it if it was important.
No, that was me. I can't talk right now. I'm on a meeting.
I get it.
Sorry.
And the last thing I want to ask, and you touched upon this in your introduction, Tina, but I wanted to confirm that barring any energy issues with Friday afternoons, which I can certainly relate to myself. Do you feel confident that 7 half days are sufficient to meet the continuing ed goals of the district?
I appreciate that question, and it's a great one. And I would say, yes. At this point in this year, I do think we're able to meet our needs, because what also happened behind the scenes was conversations with various curriculum leaders and with principals to understand kind of where things are. And as we're working through this year and setting those professional learning goals, which we've created already, we're able to ensure that between meeting times and half days that we're able to achieve those goals. And not having new curriculum implementations really helps support the reduction of those half days.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
All right. Al?
Great, thanks. So thank you for the work on the schedule. So just going back to the last day, the 180th day, can we make sure that's clearly marked off that that's a half day? I completely forgot that that's an annual thing. So I was just like, okay, full day. Maybe it'll help from a planning perspective.
Yep.
Okay,
We can
perfect.
do that.
So what I would just interject, because I've asked that same question, where that is subject to change, what we have done is on the website, it will say the last day, 180th day is a half day. So I guess it's just how do we want to message that on here? Because if that day shifts, then that means we have to go in and shift that half day on the calendar too. So we by
Yeah.
all means can do it, but we historically have written it
I
on.
think I'm wondering, Tina, if we maybe where it says 180th day right now on the 22nd, if we were to asterisk and then put below the last day of school, the 180th day of school will be a half day on the page, so at least it's on the PDF.
Yep.
So we can maybe figure out a way to
Perfect.
block
Yep.
that.
Yeah, I think it would just be from a planning perspective, and it's not a guess because like I completely forgot. I'm just thinking, like, was it when Paul said annually? I was like, was it really half a day? Like, so I think that would help. So the second thing, echo the comments around the PD being on Friday for the half days. I guess can you speak to the rationale around how Friday was the date that was decided?
Well, there are 2 half days, October and April, that have to be Fridays because one is prom and one also aligns with all of our districts around us. We typically send staff together. Like there's a music seminar, there's various professional learning opportunities for educators. And so if we don't have a half day on that day, then we are, either saying to folks they can't go join that PD or that we have to find substitutes for a full day of coverage. So where those 2 had to be Fridays, because consistent days were the preference, that's how Fridays became the day.
Got it. Understood. Okay. And I guess that's where my concern is for a half day on Friday. I feel like for some people, half days are not as important because you're not doing the full day. Wrong or right from that perception. But I'm wondering like what does absenteeism look like? Because I could see on a Friday, somebody saying, you know what, it's a Friday. You don't have to worry about going to school that day, or it's a Friday before a long holiday, let's make an extra long week, and you're just only missing half the day. And I'm wondering what does absenteeism look like on a half day, and especially being on a Friday, what does that look like as well?
Yeah. That's a great question, and I don't have that data readily available for you, but certainly we can track that and factor that in coming years.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be key just to know as well. And then going into the data, I understand that we have the participants that we have, but what would be helpful for me is understanding which groups that they represent, because I could see as a parent of a high school student and a middle school student, my concerns are different than an elementary school student. Because for me, do I really need to worry about childcare? No, they come home, they're more self-sufficient than had it been if I'm a kindergartner where I now have to find babysitters. So I'm wondering, I would love to understand better which groups did this come from? Because like, are we saying that 80% of this came from families that have elementary school students, and 10% or 20% came from high school and nothing from middle school? Like where's that break? And similar from a teacher perspective or educator perspective, because each group has different needs and wants, and that would help identify why, or at least give some rationales to why they selected what they selected.
Sure. The data I have readily in front of me is 75% of the community or the families that provided feedback were of that primary level, so that pre-K to 5 level.
Okay.
But I understand the point and the breakdown by question.
Yeah, and I think that also would help understand why. I can't. I'm holding the space down button. For the question 2, I believe why there's such a big disparity between the community and the educators, because once again, where populations are coming from. And then the last thing I have, I think it kind of piggyback off of Nadia's question in terms of like the understanding what the educators, like why they selected what they selected. The form that school committee got, is that the same form that all the participants received?
Yes.
I would suggest then going forward because there wasn't an opportunity for any open-ended, just kind of anecdotal feedback. So if going forward, if we can have a place where folks can add comments as an option, just to give some insight, because I understand like for me, um, I had picked the consistent day. However, Friday was the only option, and I would have added some context as to yes, I would love this day, but not Fridays only, like so I think that would help going forward. So if going forward, if you could do that, that would be appreciative. Cool. Thank you.
All right. Dave?
All right. Thank you very much. One, it looks like next February vacation is very short in comparison to this one. So got a couple of things. One, when it comes to graduation, I know like this is like a little early. I think it was like a couple of years ago we had an issue where we had to move graduation. I think it happened very early or it happened very late. I couldn't quite remember. I was trying to go back through my notes because it was conflicting with when senior week was happening and a few other events. I just wanted to kind of make sure before we vote on this one that that's been looked at, reviewed, and that we're a-okay with was a high school graduation of that June 4th date.
Yeah, that had to do with graduation falling on the first Friday in June. And if you recall, I believe the first Friday was May 31st.
Yeah.
And then it moved to June 7th, which pushed out. Senior week is always typically the last week in May. So there was going to create a week lag time between some of the events and their prep. So I think it created an additional week in between a graduation date. So that's why when it moved to the 31st, it was one day ahead in June, but it aligned with the end of May and the early Friday in June. So if you look at the calendar this year, they have their May 24th through 28th is like the final week for our seniors with exams and finals and all that. And then they roll into the following week after Memorial Day is all their graduation rehearsal, their senior trip, and those awards night on that Thursday. And then it rolls right into Friday the 4th. So I think it had to do with the falling of where the Fridays fell in May to avoid like an off week of no. And I think a lot of districts were looking at that. Some districts have a Saturday graduation. So June 1st was on Saturday, if I remember. So it kind of fell into place that way, or they had a different date. So that was the rationale. And that was probably 4 years ago. I think it does happen. I think we figured it out. It happens like in 9 years or, maybe 5 years now.
Okay, perfect. So just as long as just all of a sudden when I kind of saw that early high school graduation date, it brought back some memories I would love to avoid repeating. So that's fantastic.
Yes.
And then so thank you very much for that. Dr. Rogers, thank you so much too, just for all of the work that went into this, especially really the survey was just fantastic to be able to have that community voice and input into it. And especially I love as you mentioned, you were very intentional about the questions that were being asked to make sure that they were meaningful and impactful. There's nothing worse than when you kind of get some of those surveys and you go and you answer them and then nothing actually kind of comes of it because there was either going in a different direction or wherever the situation was. So to kind of know that every single question that was being asked, it wasn't, all inclusive. There was plenty more stuff that you all had to kind of decide on your own, but at least to kind of give the community some impact and choice where it mattered was fantastic. So thank you so much for that. And I really hope that this is something that continues as we move forward. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. So, I appreciate the efforts here. I know it's a lot to reach out to the community like this, and these kind of surveys, although it looks simple, do take a lot of time to properly generate. Wanted to just actually cover a couple of things and sum up some of the different points that were made, and also I think provide some context. So it does sound like the music and arts, the balance of what we'd be able to do with having all these half days on Friday is something that is kind of naturally built in, correct, Tina? Where it's not just going to be something where same exact class is missed every single Friday for everyone. It will rotate throughout kind of the normal practice of our principals.
Yes, you're right, but I also don't want to diminish the fact that if they were on not always on Fridays, then there would be less of that impact. So there still is that impact, but yes, it's for all intents like half of the number of days that students wouldn't have access to those classes.
Okay. But and then I guess to your point, we also have 5 Mondays that we don't have control over that we're doing kind of the same thing. So I think it's always a bit of a balancing act. Another point that I wanted to bring up, I think Al actually his dive into data I think is really fantastic. Trying to understand exactly where parents are coming from, and really trying to kind of highlight what drives the decisions. To his point, elementary school versus middle school versus high school, we're probably going to get some different preferences. Sometimes also no preference at all. That being said, I am a bit cautious of us digging down too deep for a couple of reasons. One is the anonymity aspect. I don't want people to feel like we're getting more questions from them, from a personal level to try and identify, information on groups or who exactly is responding. But the other part that I am very sensitive to is that it may put us as a school committee in a position where we have to essentially say which group is higher priority for a schedule that we're looking to do for kind of the community as a whole. I don't necessarily have a good answer for it, but it was just kind of a thought. If we do dig down and say, great, all the middle school parents, they don't care about the half days, and they definitely wanted school, Friday the September 4th, but all the elementary school parents are the exact opposite. How do we kind of drill down from there? And I think the biggest point there is that we don't have different schedules for each one of these groups. We have one. And really, if people want to be heard more, Tina said 75% of the respondents were K-5. Great. Let's see much higher response rates from other groups, and then we can make sure that they really are a significant portion of the voice that's being held. And then the one other detail was also looking at the open-ended questions. I think these can be helpful. Again, to Al's point, looking at context. It gives us the ability to say, it's a great idea. I would have picked Thursdays, or, oh, this is fantastic, but really I'm saying it because I don't like the other options. It's not that it's necessarily the best for me. Having done quite a few surveys over the years, open-ended questions, especially when it comes to looking at more than just a couple and being able to synthesize what is coming out of it and really make meaningful determinations from it, is a real challenge. I know that our administration team is already very thin. We talk about it often during the budget season. And I would just be sensitive to how much effort we're going to get versus what we're actually going to get back from it. If someone's saying, hey, this is a great idea, or, oh, I would have liked this other other variable, we can't necessarily quantify that in quite as an efficient manner. But I think what we could do as kind of a hybrid between these two is possibly more of the kind of the grid choice systems, where if we're looking at trying to dig in kind of a little bit, where we have these binary options, which I think are very helpful. They're very kind of powerfully important. But if we are looking for kind of the whys and those details, we can give some more context in like a grid and allow parents to say, great, I chose, option A. Please, below, please explain kind of what were the key drivers for this. And that way it gets back to some of the open-ended concepts while making it so it's just tabulated. So like right at the end, Tina, you could say, hey, this is a community preference. Here's the main driving factor. Here's this other factor, so that parents have that kind of additional input. So just kind of a thought there, trying to balance out those efforts. But yeah, outside of that, I do have one other thing to say, but I also noticed that Al wanted to follow up. So I want to just give him an opportunity to do so and hear his thoughts on things.
Sure, thank you. And just one question, I had forgotten about this. I know we're voting on this tonight. What's dependent on this vote for tonight?
I think planning for not just the district, but for families. I think typically you voted on this early February, if I'm not mistaken. I think the budget development has definitely been a priority for obvious reasons, as we talked about earlier in the meeting. But I think for family planning, for district planning, PD, a lot of the district calendars that get voted on, if we're going to coordinate efforts with district PD, I know Tina mentioned we have a local school district network where we'll send like groups of people who have job alikes to get trained on certain days. So having that information, we can include ourselves in those. If we have vendors that come in to do training on some aspect of something that we already have, like Panorama or whatever, we coordinate those half days, but those fill up. And sometimes if we don't have districts who wouldn't know their dates or haven't confirmed them, can't coordinate, and then sometimes you miss those opportunities. So I think it's more about timing for planning purposes is probably the biggest driver. And is there anything else that anyone else has on the team that's the main thing that I think about when you ask the question?
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so excellent. And I appreciate that comment, Al. And with that being said, I do know that there were some different comments and concern and a couple of concerns raised. Normally, we do have things on the agenda, and this is kind of what's presented. I want to make sure people have a second if there were any proposals or any other suggestions here with respect to what has been already described, the answers already provided, that people wanted to bring up at this point in time. All right. Seeing none, no further discussion. Vote will come on the motion. So all those in favor signify by saying aye. We will be doing a roll call vote. Start with Nadia.
Aye.
Reese.
Aye.
Ruth Ann.
Aye.
Stephen.
Aye.
Al.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. All right. So moving right along, we have discussion only items. Lucas?
Hey, discussion only items. This is before you. It's the school committee calendar. So we put it out here as discussion only to give you a chance to preview it, think about this, and then ultimately, I checked with Denise Miller. This has not gone to formal vote. However, you've endorsed it or agreed to it. So in some capacity, it's always been, obviously it's our meeting and it's your meeting as school committee. So clearly we want your input. We want to work with you on those dates, and then we can formalize that process. But ultimately you'll notice we've included 2 meetings in August, 2 in September, 2 in October, 2 in November, and then 1 in December and 2 in January. So there's a little bit of a difference, as you may feel from this year. We had some stacked meetings, and that was intentional. We knew we had elections, we had new school committee members coming on, and the timing of the November date with Thanksgiving week, I think, was one of the thoughts. We've realized that the work, and if we continue to have meetings where we're thoughtful, we're strategic on when things fall, it gives us more time. So the January 12th and 26th meetings regarding budget, now that that's a new cycle that we have, we just thought that adding back some of these dates, and then February, March, April, and May all have 2 meetings as well, just to kind of keep the flow and maybe limit having those big barn burner meetings that go until 11, 12 at night if we're spacing out some of the work. And 1 in June, school year ends. We've typically not had meetings in July, just to give staff, families, school committee members an opportunity to step away after the school year and the budget. And that's basically how we've designed it. I would encourage you to just check these dates, look at them on a calendar. And if you want to provide some feedback to Paul or to me directly as we start to build this out, my thought is next meeting, we would include this again on the agenda to revisit and just get some clarity and finalize it so that we have these dates set for next year as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Discussion. If anyone has any questions, feel free to raise your hand. Al?
Yeah, and thank you for the additional meetings. As bad as that may sound, I think it's needed with all the work that we're doing. One thing I would just suggest, or at least something to think of, you had mentioned like some of these additional meetings for specific things like budget. What I think would be helpful if someplace we have just like what would typically be on those agendas, like the big items. So we know budget's going to be in January, so making sure that that's called out. So just if somebody looks at it at a glance, they could be like, oh, in January these are budget meetings, and that's where I want to come in and listen into, and not necessarily it's going to definitively happen on those days, but most likely it would. Same thing for like other big things that we know would happen at a certain time, like
Handbook approval in
Exactly.
August,
Yeah, like all the things
goal
that
improvement, district improvement goal approval in September, budget in January. Yeah, we can build out and we can add a couple of like the big ideas that are more procedural, that are guaranteed and always fall, and then it still gives us flexibility to build out the work that comes. Sometimes some of our topics are born out of meetings from your comments or your requests, so we won't be pigeonholed, but I think I get the idea of kind of like what's the sequence of things. That makes sense. We can do that.
Yeah, and I think it's more we have to be here, but I think from the audience that may not come here every single meeting, they can then pick and choose and plan their schedule around what's important to them. So, thank you.
Yeah, it wouldn't be for every single meeting, but I think the idea of these months are where things fall. We can do something like that. Yeah.
Great, thank
You
you.
also do like brackets, right? Like
Yeah.
just like January, February budget.
Yep.
Unless you want to do budget in December.
Ooh, asking
That's
for
too
problems
early.
now.
Too early.
No, that's too early, guys.
Yeah.
It was a joke. It was a joke.
Great
Okay.
suggestion. Thanks a lot, Al. Any other comments or questions? Again, feel free to review this. We'll bring it up in the future. Stephen.
Yeah, just a question on the time. So next year, all these meetings are going to be at 6 o'clock in the evening.
Oh,
That's what I see.
After this meeting, I'll send out a questionnaire basically to everyone. Just
Okay.
let me know your thoughts, especially anyone with
Okay.
subcommittees. If there are challenges around that, I know that we used to do subcommittees basically at 6 leading into 7. And some folks, if we just shift all that forward by an hour, it is challenging. So either we're having subcommittee meetings on other days, or it's become too much of an issue. Let me know. We've tried this
Yeah.
out. It's evaluating not just from the staff perspective, but also from the school committee perspective and the community perspective to kind of see what's working. I want to make sure that if we're not able to get certain things going, or it's really impacting people's ability to attend or to participate, especially in like subcommittee meetings, that we're able to address that. So great question, great point. We'll be looking to provide updates on that as we get to our next meeting even this year.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right, excellent. Lucas, go ahead.
okay. So there's no vote for action, but ultimately that's but thank you for clarifying the 6 o'clock. I added it just actually as a placeholder for that exact question, Steve, so that it's on our radar that's how this would be built out. But yeah, your feedback's important. That Paul, thanks for saying what you said. The next discussion only item would be the annual report, Accept Collaborative attaches, or we include the Accept Collaborative report. We're part of that collaborative. I don't know if there's any questions on that.
Any questions from the committee? All right, seeing none, go ahead, please.
Okay, so we have the consent agenda. I recommend approval of the minutes from your February 10th, 2026 school committee meeting as detailed, and I recommend acceptance of $13,500 from the FMS PCC for field trips as detailed.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, vote will come on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Roll call vote. Steve?
Aye.
Nadia?
Aye.
Reese?
Aye.
Ruth Ann?
Aye.
Al?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And myself is aye. Motion carries. All right. So moving down, we actually skipped over our information matters. So we're going to go ahead and double back on that and just make sure people have an opportunity to let us know how things have been going. So for information matters, we are looking at both our school committee, subcommittee reports as well as our liaison reports. If you haven't had anything, feel free to let me know, as well as what if you do know the next time that you're going to be meeting. Superintendent evaluation, starting to get into that season. Have not had a meeting yet. We will be looking to get one on the calendar. Budget, we're kind of in the heart of budget. We just finished up a major part on our end, and we'll be providing additional updates. And I'm sure we'll be having discussions with town council. I know that they have their budget subcommittee set. So for the members of our budget subcommittee, just be prepared to respond if there are calendar scheduling requests for a joint budget subcommittee. So just have that on your radar. Policy, Callahan.
Yeah. So let's see. We had to kind of cancel our February one because of that shift from the 7 o'clock to 6 o'clock kind of start time. But we have an upcoming one Friday, March 6th at 8:15 in the morning.
Bring your coffee. Sounds
Yeah.
good. Thank you, Dave. Community relations, Al.
Yep. So we haven't had a meeting since our last meeting. Our next one is actually on March 16th, so it's a little bit later than normal. But between now and then, we do have our newsletter that will be coming out on the 5th. And then also, I had mentioned that we're trying to do a community engagement event. Steven's leading that effort. So we're just looking to secure a date, and then we'll send out a survey for folks to see their interest and availability for that.
Fantastic. I really appreciate those efforts. Horseman Legacy, Dave.
Yeah, we'll have our kickoff meeting with the whole group on this coming Thursday, the 26th at 2:30. It'll be in the high school in one of those really cool project rooms, and that we'll send out a communication to everybody on the committee. I know there's a few that are on right now, but we'll also kind of have signage to kind of direct everybody through the high school.
Fantastic. Looking forward to that. All right. Joint PCC, Nadia.
Yep, we have not met since our last meeting, but our next meeting is next Wednesday, March 4th at 6 p.m. at Pond Street. Just a few thank yous and things to note. Just a thank you to those who donated to the Project 351 coat drive, and for the ambassadors for all of their community service in collecting those to be distributed to local families. Great work. Also at the middle school, the Scholastic Book Fair is coming up from March 9th to March 20th. There's also a Santa Fe Dining Out fundraiser on March 19th. At Washington Street, the next can drive is scheduled for March 6th. Email washingtonpcck2@gmail.com to arrange a drop-off and a pickup. Lincoln Street's also having their book fair pizza night for K through 2 coming up in March, along with 3 through 5 also having a book fair in March. Spring field trips are all scheduled and planned, and both elementary schools are starting to plan the end of year events. And last but certainly not least, save the date for the Bag Bingo fundraiser, which will be a joint event between Washington and Lincoln Street, and that is May 15th. Details to come. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nadia. All right. School Wellness and Advisory Council, Reese.
I have no information on either. We haven't had any meetings since the last one.
All right. Appreciate it. Okay. All right. So now moving into citizens' comments. Let me just make sure I say this correctly for everyone. Are there any citizens in the audience, in person or online, hopefully not in person, considering it's a dark and cold building, who would like to comment on an item that falls within the committee's purview? If so, please raise your hand. We do have one hand raised in the audience. Max?
Hello, can you hear me okay?
We can, thank you.
My name is Max Marangelo. I live at 127 Central Park Terrace. I just wanted to commend you for a job well done on the budget. I know you put a lot of effort into it, and especially with the zero-based budgeting. And I just want to let you know it hasn't gone unnoticed how much work you've put into it. And so I just want to commend you on that. 2.5%, very reasonable. And I know you've put a lot of work into making sure you're, especially with the restructuring that you did as much as you could to try to make things more efficient where you could. So I just, like I said, want to commend that. And I'm here in the building, but no one's here, so I had to log in from. Not just kidding, I'm just teasing you. So, all right, well, be well and stay safe driving. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Max. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, move on to new business.
Hey, for new business, next meeting, you can expect our food service director and operations director, Colin Boisvert, will do a food services presentation to the school committee and the community. This will be a carry-on from the tours when we talked at lunch at some of the things that are happening, but I think it'll be good information for the school committee and for our community to learn about the services that are being provided with regard to food service, get an update on their experience post reorganization and whatnot. So that is one of your presentations. And then we will have some routine business. Budget being voted on now allows us to get back into the swing of some of those other items. So you can expect more information as we prepare for March 10th, which is the next meeting date for the school committee meeting.
Excellent. Any questions from the committee or just kind of comments on the new business? I'm excited. Hopefully Colin's bringing samples for next week. Just saying.
I'll have to put that on his radar.
All right. Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn the open meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Didn't think that would be the hard part. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. We're going to do a roll call. Al?
Aye.
Reese?
Aye.
Nadia?
Aye.
Ruth Ann?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Colin's
Good night,
planning some
everybody.
samples, I think, so be ready.
Oh, fantastic. Can't wait.
Just text me. All right. Thank
Have a
you,
good evening,
everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.